Show, heard each Saturday. Join Professor Robert Thomas and crypto coach Robert R. to learn the basics about buying, spending, and growing wealth with cryptocurrency. We all know that cryptocurrency is the future, and the future is happening now. So join Professor Robert Thomas and Mike R. this Saturday on WTAN and the rest of the TAN Talk Radio Network, and make your future better than today. The Bitcoin Radio Show, Saturdays from 8 to 9 a.m.
Tampa Bay's TAN Talk. Entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
It's time for FLA Law, brought to you by the personal injury attorneys of Perinick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. This hour will be informative, along with taking your questions and comments. Now, here are your hosts for today's show.
Good evening. This is Attorney Matthew Noyes, and I'm one of the partners at Perinick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. And for the next hour, we will be here to answer your legal questions. So if you have questions, please give us a call at 441-3000. Otherwise, you'll hear lawyers talk for the full hour. So it's always better if we have some live callers so we can be available to answer questions. But I'm not going to do this alone. I'm going to be doing this with my partner of many, many years, Lori Robinson. Lori, thank you for joining us again.
Very happy to be back. I enjoyed it very much last week and hope to be able to sit here a few more times.
Yeah. Well, Lori and I were talking right before the show, and we were talking about, WTAN 1340 is not even new to me because my dad had a radio show here many, many decades ago. But Lori, your dad was also involved with WTAN.
I didn't know that about your father, but my father was actually a disc jockey in the late 50s for WTAN and in their original location, which was on the Bay. They were actually the first radio station in the Clearwater market. So they have a very fond place in my heart as a result.
Yeah, that's very good. It's very neat. It's, just goes on for generations.
Yes,
so it's very
very
cool.
good.
So we are a personal injury law firm, Perinick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. We are the oldest personal injury attorneys law firm in Pinellas County, or actually in Tampa Bay. We have been helping people since 1955, whether it's because of an automobile accident, slip and fall, workers' compensation, Social Security disability, or anything that involves insurance companies taking advantage of the injured. We are here to help. So again, if you have questions before the calls start coming in, please give us a call at 441-300. It does look like we do have a caller on the line right now. So, caller, thank you for holding. And how can we help you today?
My name is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
I'm in Tampa County, Florida. And my question is, there was a car accident February of last year, and the crash report states that the other driver failed to yield right away.
Okay.
But the driver of our car, mine and my son's, did not get a ticket. So we paid the deductible and never got reimbursed. I need to know what I should do. I've been waiting a year, and the insurance we had was the general.
Okay.
They
So you had comp and collision on your policy with the general, and you had your property damage repaired through your insurance company. Is that my understanding?
yes.
Okay. And was there information on the at-fault driver's insurance?
We got a letter from the general saying that we were not at fault.
Okay.
With the other driver and AFIS insurance, American Family Insurance.
Okay. Insures the other drivers, the other vehicle.
That was, their insurance was someone else, UAH. I guess they didn't admit to the fault. My insurance was trying to help.
Okay.
So in March, they AFICS Insurance sent me a letter saying that it's now turned over to AFLI
So really what happens is I think it's a perfect opportunity to talk about who fixes the car after a car accident, and then what can you do in order to protect yourself and be compensated when you weren't at fault. So Lori, typically who would fix the car after a car accident? I know there's two options.
Right. So of course there are two options, and the at-fault car, if they have insurance, would be a logical place for the car to be fixed. And in that situation, you wouldn't end up having to pay a deductible. But there can be many situations where, for a variety of reasons, there may be some disputes or some questions, and it's quicker and easier to go through your own insurance company, which is what happened in your situation. And in that situation, you do end up with paying your own deductible. Then your insurance company, if there's no personal injury claim associated with it, so you don't have attorneys involved, and that's what sounds like is the case here, your insurance company would go after the other insurance company to get reimbursement under what they call subrogation. But that can be a process that doesn't always work out. It can take a long time. And if there isn't other insurance coverage that your insurance company is able to obtain to get reimbursement, then unfortunately you're still going to have a situation where you're kind of out the deductible. And that's what's sounding like here. Now, I'm not exactly sure with the collection notice. I'm not following that.
What I think may have happened, I think the caller's insurance company may have tried to collect it from the at-fault driver's insurance, and they turned that collection effort over to the collection agency.
Yes, okay, yeah, I'm sure you're right there, actually.
Unfortunately, what happens is when you have two insurance companies getting involved, they're a little bit slower than if it was an individual being involved. So, Maria, I don't know if you're still on the phone. Are you still on the phone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think that's probably what's happening. There's really a few things you can do. You can light a fire under your insurance company by writing them a letter or sending an email. Make sure it's in writing. Tell them that you're still waiting for you to get reimbursed for your deductible. That's one thing you can do. The second thing you can do is you can contact the Florida Department of Insurance, and there is a customer complaint form that is online, and you can try to rectify or get them involved to try to get your deductible paid. Because what happens in Florida is that everybody's supposed to carry property damage coverage. And that's the kind of coverage that your insurance should be going after in order to not only collect what they paid out for your property damage, but also your deductible. So two ways to handle it. And I would recommend you do both. Contact your insurance company in writing, but also contact the Department of Insurance and see if you can shake a tree over there to get them involved. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I'll do those two things. They had collision and I had collision, and they already paid for his car, over $5,000, and I already paid for our car. So I don't understand why they couldn't get the $500.
It doesn't make sense to me either. The insurance companies seem to drag their feet too often when it's insurance versus insurance. And so they just seem to drag their feet. But that's why it's good for you to hold their feet to the fire and go on an email or a letter campaign, even if it's once a month, saying, I still don't have my deductible. I still don't have my deductible. And maybe the Department of Insurance can help out as well.
Okay.
All right. I wish you the best. Thank you for calling and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night. The good question that she brought up was a little bit about the accident reports that I was at fault and I didn't get a ticket. We hear that all the time. Does the accident report, is that admissible in a case, or is the person who gets a ticket, is that something that weighs a lot on whether or not someone's at fault?
Well, as you and I know, unfortunately, many people assume that the police officer's determination on that report is determinative, but it really isn't. It would not be admissible were we to go into a jury trial, for example, if there was a personal injury action or something. Now, I would say, particularly in situations like what she's probably dealing with, normally the insurance company is going to look at that favorably in terms of how they ascertain who's at fault. Not always, but
But a jury will never know who got
Right.
the traffic ticket.
Yeah, and of course that's because actually the police officer doesn't really know anything other than what he's been told. He's not going to have observed the accident, so that would have to be established in other ways, not by just what the police officer puts in the accident report.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It does free up a line. So if you have a question, please give us a call at 441-3000. Before we take the next call, Lori is a board certified civil trial attorney. She has been practicing law for a good deal of time. Can you share a little bit about what a board certified civil trial attorney is?
Sure. So, as Matt mentioned, I have been practicing for quite a period of time, 44 years actually. To become board certified, all lawyers have to take a bar exam and are licensed to practice law in the state of Florida. But to be board certified in any particular area, our area would be civil trial law, requires that you pass an exam, that you demonstrate trial experience, that you've had quite a number of jury trials, and then ultimately the Florida Bar certifies you as essentially a specialist in the area of civil trial law. And that has been really my area for many, many years. I was first board certified in 2001, and remarkably, that's 20 some odd years ago.
Well, I can assure you, Lori and I have been working on cases together for a long time, and she certainly is a specialist in what she does. So let's take our next caller.
First, we're going to go to Mark in Largo.
Mark, how can we help you?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. How can we help you today?
Good. And Lori, congratulations on your many years of service.
Thank you.
Good job on that. Yeah, well, I had a question. I was in an accident about 8 months ago, and I was rear-ended, and the police officer would not issue a citation of the person that was at fault. And the problem that I had was when I was dealing with the other person's insurance company, which had to be State Farm, the very first question they would ask me is if the ticket was issued. And even though it was clearly not my fault, the police officer didn't write a ticket, and it took several months for the other party State Farm to do their due diligence to admit liability. The other party lived out of the state and wasn't returning phone calls. And I think a lot of people just get confused on what to do. I guess after an accident, what are the best steps to take? And furthermore, if you have an officer that will not issue, a citation or put at fault in the police report, how do you handle that? Because again, every time I would call State Farm, the very first initial stages, the very first question they would ask me was there a police report? And there wasn't one. There was just an exchange of information.
Very good question. Yeah, unfortunately, nowadays it is hard to get the police officers or law enforcement out to certain accidents if there's no injuries reported. But there is an exchange of information that needs to be done, and it does become a challenge with the insurance companies because they have to sort out who is at fault. But as we were just saying, the fact that somebody was issued a ticket is not dispositive of whether or not that person was at fault. It's a good indication, but certainly they can't hang their hats on, well, my insurer didn't get a ticket, so therefore we're not paying the property damage.
Right. Well, sorry. So in my case, there was no ticket issued at all.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, he was a younger police officer. I'm wondering, would it for a person like myself, could I demand a higher up or maybe a sergeant or somebody to come
maybe
on?
Not.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying maybe not. I think it's because there's so many different reasons that a police officer might not issue a ticket. I guess if there was. You'd always have the option to report it to a supervisor, but I wouldn't expect that to be.
I think the police really have discretion whether or not to issue a ticket or not to issue a ticket.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it really became an issue as I began to deal with this accident because that was the first question that State Farm wanted to know. And anyway, I was just disappointed that happened. It ended up working out in my favor. But anyway, I appreciate. And so if somebody gets in a car accident, what are the best steps that they should take? Should they take pictures? Should Okay, what should they do?
A very good question. Yeah, because after, I'll tell you from experience, after a car accident, you can give a whole list of things you're supposed to do. But even me, after I was involved in even a small accident, the tension flares up and you just kind of forget what you're supposed to do, even as a personal injury attorney. But there are certain things that you really should do. And that's first thing is move over. A lot of people think that you're supposed to stay where the accident happened. Really, the law says you're supposed to move your vehicles out of danger if you can. So move over, get information. If you can get the person's driver's license and property damage photos, do that. If it seems like a road rage incident, just stay in your car and call the police. But try to get his insurance information, a picture of his license, driver's license, and also a picture of his license plate and any property damage that you may have. You need to report it to your insurance company as well, because that begins the claim.
Okay.
And if you're hurting, then you do need to follow up with seeing a doctor. In Florida, you only have 14 days from the date of the crash to see a doctor. Otherwise, all that money that you paid out.
You only have you have to see a doctor within 14 days?
Yeah, you have to see a doctor within 14 days from the crash. Otherwise, your insurance company, I envisioned the adjusters doing a little jig on the 15th day because they don't have to pay out any of the PIP benefits that you've been paying for years and years and years.
So what about a chiropractor? Could you also see a chiropractor within that 14-day period?
Certainly. A chiropractor is a medical provider that provides great relief in car accident cases, and they do qualify for the 14-day period in order to get your PIP benefits. So I strongly recommend people that are hurting, but they say, "Oh, it's not that bad." It's still important to see a medical provider within the 14 days to protect those benefits under PIP. Do you agree, Lori?
Oh, absolutely. I was talking with a young man just today that was saying exactly that. Oh, well, I don't have a broken bone. I said, well, you want to protect those benefits. Plus, the way the body works, you really don't know what your situation is until you allow a little time to go by.
Right. So. Adrenaline's flowing. It usually takes a few days before it starts hurting. So it is important to see a chiropractor or another medical provider after a crash.
Yeah. And then sometimes the other insurance company will start to call you after an accident. That happened to my friend trying to settle with them. I think it might have been like Progressive trying to settle with them or write them a check or something like that.
Happens way too often. We had a case where the Progressive it was Progressive adjuster talked to our client and said, well, let me just give you $1,000 to settle your case. And she was like, well, I want to think about it. No. Give me your bank information. We'll direct deposit the money right to your account. No, I really want to go, no, it's good. This will pay for your massage because massage isn't covered. Well, then there's a release that comes with it too. And they try to get out of the responsibility of paying for all the damages because the adjuster tried to talk to the injured person before they had an opportunity to talk to an attorney.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. So where's your office located?
Our main office is in Clearwater. It's on Belcher Road and Sunset Point Road, but we have offices throughout Tampa Bay. We have another office in St. Petersburg as well, and we meet clients in Newport Richey and in Tampa, and really any place we need to. Okay.
Well, Lori and Matt, I sure appreciate all the information, and keep doing a good job out there. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, drive safely and have a nice night.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Sure. Thank you. Before we take the next call, I do got to give Matt a little hard time over there sitting in the booth.
I know why. I know why. For those watching on YouTube and Facebook, you can see Matt and Lori, but you can't see me. I'm sitting here on the other side of the table in a New York Mets jersey and a Mets hat, only because the Mets and Rays play tonight in Tampa.
Yes, they do.
Or down at the Trop Brother in St. Pete.
No, they play in New York.
They're in New York. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're at Citi Field in New York, and I'm a Met fan. I grew up a Met fan. I'm from Long Island, and I said this going in when I moved down here. I gladly support the Rays, except for when they play the Mets. Then all bets are off.
Well, I'm just glad there's a glass in between us. All
Exactly.
right.
But this is said in all good, clean fun. Again, I'm not a Yankee fan. I'll leave it at that.
Hey,
Okay.
we'll give you that. Though. If you're going to be a Mets fan.
We actually do have another call on the line. Allie from Clearwater wants to get in on this conversation.
All right. Allie, thank you for holding. How can we help you?
Hi, I actually have a question about Social Security. So, are you guys able to tell me the difference between SSI and SSD?
Sure we are. That's a good question. That's a question we hear a lot. We do a lot of Social Security disability because we see a lot of people trying to fight for Social Security benefits. And when you're trying to fight the government, you kind of need somebody who knows how to fight with you. And so, Lori, can you briefly, I know
Sure.
we could probably take a month worth of shows talking between SSI and SSD, but what are the differences?
Yeah, I think because people don't really actually recognize it, but SSI, let's start with SSD, really. Social Security Disability is a program that is based on your earnings record. So if you work and you pay into the Social Security system for your eventual Social Security retirement, if God forbid, unfortunately, you become disabled, you can be approved for disability if you meet the criteria of Social Security. And that's disability. SSI is basically a welfare version of that program. And that's for people that do not have enough work credits, or, which people often don't realize, those work credits have to be relatively recent, approximately 5 years since you last worked. You'll be able to qualify for disability under the earnings. But if it gets longer than that, you won't. And so I can tell already, Social Security is so complicated. But that, in a nutshell, is the difference. The SSI is a welfare version, much smaller benefit. You can't have very much in the way of assets. The SSD is based on your earnings record, and that's doesn't have anything at all to do with your income or assets.
Right. And in fact, I just met with a client today who battled kidney cancer. She had a kidney replacement, and fortunately she's recovering, but she hasn't been able to work. And she wasn't working because she was raising her kids. And so doesn't qualify for Social Security disability because she doesn't have the right work credits. And so, okay, well, how about Social Security income? She meets the qualifications for the injuries, but she has a husband who brings home money. And so would that disqualify her?
Yes, the SSI program really is geared towards essentially poverty level. If you're married, you could have $3,000 in the bank. If you're not, $2,000, and essentially nothing else.
And I think it's substantial gainful activities. You can't be earning more than $1,300
right.
about
And so
in a month.
they have very complicated rules for how, because she's not earning anything, but they would consider her husband's income. So, yeah, every person's situation should be reviewed individually. I mean, if a person feels like they probably should apply for disability, and we spend a lot of time talking with people that are trying to consider their options, but it is a little bit complicated.
I hope we didn't confuse you more, Allie, than answering the question. Is that helpful, though?
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you for listening, and you drive safely if you're in your car.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
You too.
too.
Thank you. That does free up a line. Our number to call in to your question, for your question to be answered, is 441-3000. Lori Robinson and me, Matthew Noyce, are attorneys at Perronick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyce.
For those that are calling from outside of Pinellas County, that's 727-441-3000.
That's perfect. All right. Thanks, Matt. Yes. And so we're here to answer any questions that you have. We are personal injury attorneys, so we can address any questions regarding automobile accidents, slip and falls. But we are also workers' compensations attorneys, and we are also Social Security disability attorneys. So any question that you have, and Lori and I also went to law school, so we could probably tackle any question,
Sure.
at least give you a law school answer to it. So we're going to take a little break right now, but when we come back, give us a call, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman. In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman.
This is the TAN Talk Radio Network.
FLA Law on the radio. My name is Matthew Noyce, and I'm here with Lori Robinson, and we're two attorneys with the law firm of Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyce, the longest established personal injury law firm in Tampa Bay. We've been helping people since 1955, and we're here to help you tonight on the radio. If you have questions regarding personal injury, regarding workers' comp, regarding Social Security disability, please give us a call. Our number is 727-441-3000. We have about 25 more minutes before we call this show for the week, but we'll be back on next Tuesday as well because we're here every Tuesday from 5 to 6. Before we take the next call, I was giving Matt a little smack about his Mets jersey. But I do have to admit, it's not fair for me to give you smack unless I can also tell you.
But the way I look at it, though, it's baseball. It's all fair in love and war.
That's right. Well, I am going up to Chicago in a few weeks.
Okay.
I am a diehard Cubs fan.
And I feel sorry for you because my Mets have had success over the last 20 plus years. The Cubs have one title.
Hey, we'll take the one.
Exactly. But at least you've seen your team win a title in my lifetime. I haven't with my Mets yet. Their last win was 2 years before I was born.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to watch the Cubs versus the Rays.
Ooh.
And
okay.
so we're going to get two games. So I'm going to wear a Cubs jersey and a Rays hat.
There you go.
And then a Rays jersey and a Cubs hat.
All right. Which is funny you say that because one of the first times I came down here to visit, like I said, I have people that I'm staying with here. When I first came down to visit them for like a week, it happened to coincide with the first time I ever got to see the Mets on the road, which was playing here in Tampa. As soon as I got in, so it kind of timed out right. Like when I booked the trip, I didn't even think about it till I looked at the schedule, and then it hit me. I land the day that series starts at the Trop.
Oh.
So I couldn't go to the Friday night game, but I was there Saturday with my friends, and the Mets got blown out.
Well,
so I'm like,
typical.
all right, I go see the Mets on the road. They get their doors blown off,
That's
of course.
typical for those Mets. I could talk baseball for the whole hour. And now Lori and I have been working along with each other long enough. I think Lori could probably talk baseball
I've
for
learned
the
an awful
hour
lot from
now.
you. Let's just put it that
There we
way.
go.
But let's talk personal injury, workers' comp, and Social Security disability, or any law questions that you have.
And we have law questions for you right now. Wendy from Clearwater is on the phone.
Perfect. Wendy, thank you for holding. Sorry you had to listen to about baseball talk, but how can we help you?
Well, thank you for taking my call. I don't mind holding. A lot of people in my neighborhood and I discuss things about, well, we just need little jobs done like cleaning the gutters or just a minor tree trim. And it doesn't involve hiring a major company for anything. So we have to go with smaller, maybe even individuals. What is our liability as a homeowner if something happens?
That's a very good question. There are risks whenever you invite somebody over to your house. You have certain duties depending on who you're inviting over. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Lori and let her address those concerns and those questions, because they're very good questions, because a lot of people are using Nextdoor, inviting people to come and such.
And I'm going to say somewhat unfortunately, you're kind of looking at smaller jobs. You're looking at maybe the handyman or somebody that doesn't have a large company and probably doesn't have any real insurance. So in those situations, you're going to have to evaluate your circumstances and recognize that for any job that involves a degree of risk, you probably may want to consider, for example, somebody getting up on your roof. If that person's not an insured person, you do have some potential risk there. But the other thing I would say that I think would come up in that context, because you've got a smaller job, so you might have a situation where the person that comes on your property asks to use some of your equipment, say a ladder or something like that. Not a good idea, because if there is a problem with it, you've now provided that, and now they could potentially bring a claim of negligence against you. Now, the other aspect to all of this is that it's very important to have homeowners insurance so that you do have liability protection for things that might happen on your property, because it's hard for us to anticipate, obviously, everything that we might be concerned about.
But it is important. Just because somebody gets injured on your property doesn't make you liable. It's important. It's important for them to establish that there was some type of negligence on the homeowner's part. And that's
if I ask them to use their own equipment,
if you ask them to use their own equipment, and there's nothing dangerous on your situation in your home, then they would have the burden to prove that you were negligent in some way before they can bring any claim against you.
Yeah, and that is a fundamental. I mean, people do in any setting need to realize that, and even if a person brings a claim against you, because, people can potentially try to bring claims, but you still have to in some way have been negligent in order for them to prevail. So I don't want to leave too many lawyer-like worries, basically, because obviously, as long as you haven't done something negligent, you shouldn't have an issue. But a small company, there's not going to be workers' comp coverage. There can be some situations that might pose an issue for you. And then if you had a problem, call a lawyer.
Call a lawyer or call your homeowner's insurance, because they have to provide you with legal representation.
Right. Well, if I need a lawyer, I would definitely call your firm.
Well, we appreciate that. We're here to help people. We're here to, many times we meet people that we don't even open up a case for. They just have a question and they need a little guidance. I think Lori met with a very nice lady today, just needed a few questions answered and she couldn't get them answered. So Lori was kind enough to answer those questions for her. That's what part of being in the community is all about. We wouldn't be here for 70 years if we weren't here to help people and to serve the best that we can. So thank you for listening. Thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you, Wendy.
Yes, and I support having the small business come and help out. And I think it's very good. Sometimes they're even better than the big big companies doing it. They're more passionate about doing a good job. So. All you really got to do is make sure that you're not negligent. And also, Lori's right. You should check to make sure that they are insured, bonded to protect you just in case.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening and have a great night.
You too.
That does free up a line. Again, this is Matthew Noyce, so you are listening to FLA Law on the radio.
And we don't have to wait, actually. We have another caller.
All right.
Martina from Clearwater is on the line. She's ready for you right now.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. How can we help you?
Hi there. I'm calling for a friend, actually. She was recently in a car accident, and after a few days, well, initially she didn't think she had to have any hurts in her body. But after a few days, she thought, oh, maybe I should see a doctor because her shoulder started hurting and all this. But she thought she'd call her primary care physician first. And unfortunately, when she said car accident, they were kind of, reluctant to help her.
Yes.
What's the next step?
That's a very good.
Do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, that's a very cool. Sure. Thank you for the question. That's a very good question. It's a question we see a lot. So many times, the family doctor or the primary care doctor offices are hesitant to see somebody after a car accident, not because they don't want to take care of them. It's because they don't want to do all the paperwork and all the hassles that deal with the car accident.
Yeah.
There's different paperwork. There's different filings. You file the bill with the insurance, the car insurance, instead of with the health insurance. The doctor then is exposed to potential legal involvement in the case and having to testify if there's a need to testify in that case. And so there are many reasons why family doctors are hesitant to treat auto accident victims. Lori, any more on that, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think, unfortunately, that is a factor with a lot of the family care doctors. So I think at that point, the next step really is to find a doctor, perhaps a chiropractor, or really someone that, and there are doctors that will handle personal injury claims because they're involved with doing it. So their offices are set up to handle the insurance filings and that kind of thing.
Right. And many times we lawyers are accused of trying to do some collusion because we referred the client over to a doctor. Well, in many situations, it's because they didn't know a doctor or their doctor wouldn't see them. So there's no collusion. It's just trying to get that client into a doctor that will treat them for their injury.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I hope that's helpful to you. Thank you for calling. I hope your friend feels better.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you very much. Yes. And so that does free up a line. If you do have a question, please feel we got about 15 more minutes of this week's episode of FLA Law on the radio. So give us a call at 727-441-3000. People may say, why do we call it FLA Law on the radio? And so we, the law firm, Pernick Caulfield, Dade, Noyce, many years ago, used to have a live TV call-in show. It was called FLA Law. And we had it went on for years. We had 2 shows in Pinellas County, 2 shows in Pasco County, and we did it all the time. And I smile at Lori because I think she can tell me the most memorable episode that she was on with FLA Law.
As many times as I'm asked about it.
So why don't you tell our listeners your most memorable time on FLA Law on the TV?
Yeah, and really the programs were a lot of fun, but I especially enjoyed hosting a program where we were supporting the SPCA and local humane societies for animals type thing. So we all got to bring our dogs on. So I had my Cocker Spaniel, Maggie, of the time, beautiful buff little girl. And we had several people from the office and some attorneys that were appearing on the program that brought their dogs on. And we talked a little bit about legal issues that relate to dogs, dog bites, right? But all of our dogs were so nice, that they would never have bit anybody. But it was a lot of fun. And so the program itself was a good community program to kind of introduce issues that people might have some interest in hearing about. And then, of course, just like this, people could call in, and we got all kinds of calls. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Now, I don't think it was on that episode, but there was an attorney in Clearwater. His name's Luke Wall, and he and one of our founding fathers of Parentage Caulfield, Illinois, Bob Carroll. Bob Carroll and Lou would get on the show quite often. Well, Lou always had his dog walking around in his law office.
Yes, I think Howie, I almost want to say.
It may have been.
Yeah.
Well, Lou, of course, would then bring the dog to FLA Law. Well, Bob always tells a story of one day he was hosting and the dog started chewing on the tassels of Bob's shoe right on the air. And so he lost the tassels of his shoe on that show. So
That can happen.
Yes. So yes, we do have a lot of fun. We are dedicated to the community. We've been dedicated to the community since 1955. I think it's important that you don't have these huge TV shows or this TV commercial budgets to try to, just fill the TVs with TV commercials to try to confuse the people or not really confuse, but just show that they're maybe part of the community when they're not. And so
maybe a little too glitzy or something. One of the things I love about our firm and our philosophy, and certainly you and I, as we worked together for so many years, is to be available to answer questions for people to try, obviously, if we can help you officially, legally, and handle your case, fantastic. But also to actually be available, as a part of the legal profession, which is a profession of service too, to be able to answer people's questions and kind of give them some informal guidance along the way. And it's not that easy to get,
right?
These days. I mean, everything's so big and impersonal, but that's not the way where our law firm is.
Right. Guy Pernick started our firm with Bob Carroll back then, and he's always had that mentality of client first, and so we're proud to do that. So if you do have a question, but it's not Tuesday between 5 and 6, you can always call our office. We're in Clearwater. It's 727-796-8282. We do offer no-cost consultations, and so we're happy to help you. One of the things that we do help, Lori and I help a lot of people on are Social Security disability. And one of the frequently asked questions on Social Security disability is how long? Tell me the process. How long is this process? Can you give them a little insight about the length of the Social Security disability process?
Sure, because I think one of the toughest things for people to deal with is that Social Security is actually a pretty lengthy process.
Oh, goodness, yes.
In the usual case, not always, and there are circumstances where it can go a little more quickly, but after the application phase, and now, of course, with the COVID backups and the staffing issues that are present, it can take a year or even sometimes a little more, even to have your initial application looked at. And typically they're denied initially. Most people have to go to the hearing process in front of a judge, where we would almost always be successful, not always, but usually. That process, once you've gone through the process of having your application reviewed, denied, you ask for a reconsideration, denied, then you ask for a hearing. From that point, it's about something like a year, 14 months or so.
Right.
And they're now doing those via video. They actually have gotten better at scheduling those hearings now. It used to be 18 months, 2 years or more, but they've really gotten a lot better with that. And, I suspected that a lot of it is the efficiency now of using the video conference process, which I'll have to say I've kind of gotten to like. I think it works pretty well, really.
Yeah, in fact, Social Security Administration prints out or provides the average wait time in months from the hearing request date until the hearing was held.
Right.
And in St. Petersburg, you're right, 14 months from the time that you request a hearing to the hearing date. In Tampa, it's 14 months. Tallahassee, it's 17 months. And so, but that's really just the last phase.
Right. That's why I don't want people to have a misunderstanding, because the earlier phase now is just taking quite a long time. I mean, I would normally have said 6-8 months, something like that, but we're seeing it be longer than that.
Right.
Now hopefully they are staffing up, and that will be improved at some point, hopefully. But it is the government, so
right. And So in order to be eligible for Social Security disability, you have to be unable to work for 12 months before they even look at it. If you haven't been out for 12 months, or more likely than not to be out for 12 months, then you're denied right away. So those people that think, oh, these people on Social Security are taking advantage of the system, such and such, blah, 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 it kind of drives me crazy, because what are these people doing? They're out for 12 months, not making any income. They have to apply for Social Security disability. They have to wait and wait and wait for that application. That gets denied. You have to file a request for reconsideration. You wait and you wait and you wait. And then that gets denied. And then you do the request for hearing, and then you got to wait 14 months before you get the hearing.
Right.
But you don't find out in most situations the day of the hearing whether you qualify or not. Is that right?
Usually another 2 or 3 months, or sometimes even longer, but usually something in that ballpark. So you can see it's a process. It's 2.5, maybe even approaching 3 years for many people. You know? And so it's a long process. You do get back benefits, 1 year prior to the date you filed, so that's great, but you've had to wait a long time. You've had to be able to deal with the lack of any financial income from a job. It's a tough situation.
And during that 2.5 years, what's the most important thing that we need as lawyers to help them be successful in their fight for Social Security benefits?
Medical treatment. The person's got to have an ongoing medical record. Social Security is a totally medically driven system. So what often will happen, it's tough if you don't have insurance. You may have to go through the health department or whatever. But we often do counsel people on that, because it's very easy to just throw up your hands and say, well, what difference does it make, or to feel like they can't do much. But if you don't have ongoing documentation of the severity of your symptoms that limit you from being able to perform work, then they can't approve you. So,
right. And that's very difficult, because, again, people aren't working. So how are they going to pay for this medical care? But you can go through the Pinellas County Health Department. It's tough because it's a bureaucracy and stuff. You have to be very persistent, but I have definitely seen people go through that process and get good care. Yeah. So, there are ways, but it's not easy. Right. And we have a lot of clients that they have a mental disability, whether it's depression or bipolar or whatever it may be. They need that treatment as well. And they need that medical documentation for that as well. Fortunately, the Directions for Living is really a pretty good resource available for people to receive ongoing psychiatric care and mental health care and counseling. And there are other Suncoast down in St. Pete. There are other similar types of options available for people in the mental health area. I'd say, actually, in that sense, is it as good as perhaps if you had insurance? You're not going to maybe get the same amount of time with the physician, but you do have those options. And you must, not only does the person need the help, but it has to be documented what the issues are, or Social Security will not approve. That's exactly true, Lori, because we can be with that person for an extended period of time. The family can be living with that person and know that there's no way that they'd ever be able to hold down a job. And so they should qualify for Social Security disability. But if there's not medical documentation, there's not documentation of the limitations that prevent that person from working, it's almost impossible to win a Social Security disability case. In very rare instances, a judge will order what they call a consultative evaluation, and Social Security will send the person to a doctor, but that doctor has no experience with the patient, has only sees the patient the one time, and they don't pay them very much, so those are not usually very helpful. So you really need your own treatment in the normal situation if you're going to be successful. And we've had situations in cases where the doctor just writes, patient X is disabled and cannot work. That doesn't help us, does it? Right. Now, many times if you have your maybe your primary doctor is trying to help you, what Social Security, they're not interested in the opinion of the doctor as to whether or not you can work, because Social Security uses their own rules. What they're interested in is documentation of the limitations. So you want to be talking to your doctor about the problems you're having lifting and carrying things, the problems you're having sitting or standing, the things that translate into the reason you can't really work. And
that if you discuss that with your doctor, it gets addressed in the medical record. Now there's documentation for what the limitations are. And then with our assistance, we would typically send a questionnaire to the doctor to kind of clarify the specific situation that the person's dealing with, what those limitations really are. So it's clear in the Social Security file, providing a basis for approval. Ultimately, at the hearing.
Yeah, and in our auto accident cases, we know that an auto accident, a person involved in an automobile accident just doesn't impact that person. It impacts the whole family.
Oh yes,
the spouse and the kids, but Social Security magnifies that as well, because somebody who is in a situation where they need Social Security disability, the whole family's impacted. And so that's why it's important for us. And that's why we take it so passionately, is try to help the person who's getting Social Security disability, because in turn, it then helps the whole family.
Yes, it's obviously a big burden for the individual who's applying for Social Security, because often their family members are helping them financially or letting them stay with them, kind of thing. And it's a tough emotional burden all around. So, very, very complicated process, actually. I mean, it's supposed to be set up so you don't need a lawyer, but believe me, you need a lawyer.
Right,
Yeah.
You do need a lawyer. And so if you're going to start the process of Social Security disability, the best thing to do is to just file it yourself, or should you consult with an attorney before you even file the initial application?
Yeah, you have your option, and then you certainly can apply and see how it goes. But over the last several years, we have really seen it's better for us to be involved from the very beginning. So we do encourage people to contact us. If it looks like you would qualify, then we will assist you in actually making the online application for Social Security disability, and SSI still has to be done on a paper form. We'll help do that for you, which I think is a little better, but it's
right.
kind of up to the person.
I think it's really important that you start on the right foot by talking to somebody that can help. So if you or a loved one may qualify for Social Security disability, or just have questions of whether or not you may qualify, we encourage you to give our office a call. It's Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, Illinois. We are in Clearwater, but we have offices throughout Tampa Bay. And our number is 727-796-8282. Or you can visit us online at usalaw.com. You can also visit us online at voiceoftheinjured.com. Because that's really what we try to be. We try to be the voice of the injured. Lori, it's been a pleasure to have you this hour. I can't believe the hours are already gone by.
We had a lot of great questions. Yes. That was fun.
And we had to say go Rays because Matt's over there wearing the Mets jersey.
Yeah, I know. And I said this before. Any other circumstances, I'd be yelling "Go Rays" with you. But they're playing the Mets. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not Thursday. Go Mets.
Well, we can block that part of the radio off. But no, we thank you for listening. We are here every Tuesday from 5 until 6. I will not be here next week because my son has a baseball banquet. He goes to Clearwater Central Catholic, and our coach pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays. So thank you very much, Rays. Go, Coach Dan. But we are here. So somebody will be here. So listen to us next week or call us during the week at 796-8282. I am Matthew Noyce, and for Lori Robinson, we thank you for sharing this hour with us. Drive safely and watch out for those who don't. Take care.